Hello everyone, this is Zibo and welcome to this AFK journey video. So yesterday, as I was releasing the first impression video as well as the stream for Fiestro, a lot of people actually asked me to test this unit out at the lowest tier to see how viable he is for the free-to-play players. I think it's a very valid point. So I thought, how can I better sort of present this information so that you guys can understand the difference between the unit at the lower tier compared to the unit at the higher tier. So I thought, hey, why not just compare a $0 account to a very well account with the unit maxed out? And here we have it. We are back on ZBoss, which is my $0 global account. So this will be a series moving forward where I compare the unit at the lowest tier at one copy with bare minimum equipment, just relying on levels to test out whether or not the unit is viable in terms of the different contents that the unit is supposed to be used in. And then talk about this unit in comparison to its max out state, hence the $0 versus $1,000, because in most cases, if you want to max out a unit, it's about a few $100s depending on whether or not it's like a normal unit or is it like the Slash Hypogean unit, which is the one that is covered in this video. So therefore, this $0 versus $1,000 series will begin from here. And let me know down in the comment section below what units you want to see compared next for this $0 versus $1,000 series. So for this account right here, as you guys can see, we got one copy of Fiestro right here at the lowest tier, epic tier, with no charm equipped, with no EX weapon equipped. So I'll say this is like the very bare bone of the unit, and let's see whether or not this unit can tank up, whether or not this unit can do its job. So we're gonna go into the AFK challenge, and as I'm showcasing for this account later on, I'm gonna move into the $1,000 Fiestro, where we showcase a max out Fiestro at Supreme Plus tier, and then talk about why this unit could be a lot better at the end game, why this unit is so strong moving into the end game compared to him at the lower state. So right here, this is my very standard team. I'm going to go at 2 times so that you guys are not bored by the battle. But you guys can see that this unit is actually tanking really well on the front line because you have decent support, right? We have the shielding coming out from Coco, the shielding from Antandra, the healing coming out from Smokey. So this unit, I'll say it's still decently good at the lower tier. However, if you have him at the lower tier, I'll say he's probably not that good in terms of deficit pushing. So right here, we have a 38,000k versus 56,000k here. So we're going to continue pushing, and then we're going to see how far we can go with this unit on the front line at one copy itself. So here you guys can see this unit starting to drop HP, but it's unavoidable in a sense because at the lower tier itself, as a tank, you're losing out a lot on stats. And as a tank that you want to put on the front line, usually the tank will be of a higher tier, because then the unit will maximize its own heal, its own defensive stats, and then survive better on the front line. So we're just going to take a look at a few records over here. So right here, we don't see a lot of the Fiestro right here, but for myself, I'm actually able to find, I'll say, decent success with him at the lowest here, just at level 211. So we're going to continue auto challenging, and then I'm going to talk about this unit's other role that could make this unit decently good at the lower tier. So other than just being a tank, this unit is also 2 bodies on the battlefield, so you can effectively use this unit to take those single target hits. For example, Sylvina's sniping, right? For example, Brian's ultimate, for example, Krafra's charge. All this unit has this one-time start of the battle charge at something. So you can use the illusion as an additional body to take that. That's something which a lot of other units cannot do because they only have one body. Another thing that Fiestro has going for this unit is that this unit has the buffing ability, right? The buffing ability which provides damage reduction, the buffing ability which provides energy regen recovery. So this is one thing which I think will make the unit viable even if you don't have stats on him, because you can use him more as a buffer than a tanker, right? So let's say now if I have difficulty surviving with him, what I can do is I can take out Antandra and then put Torrent as my main tank. So my Torrent has a lot of stats, so he could stand better on the front line. But at the same time, so let's say now we shift back our units, okay? And then we're gonna put Torrent right in the front line to tank up. So this is one way I can make up for this unit not being that tanky at the lower tier. right? This is definitely one way we could do it. But one thing that you guys might want to note is that if the main body, which is the main Fiestro, dies off, then the illusion will also die off. So if you want to use Torrent linked to the Fiestro so that you have like some sort of protection for him at the lower tier, then you will need to link to the main body instead. So let me just reposition a little bit. Okay, so we're just gonna auto challenge and we see how many stage we can clear, and I'm gonna talk about this unit's other strengths other than just being a buffer, other than just being two bodies. So one thing which I think this unit is really good at without the Supreme Plus skill, without the hero focus, is the debuff ability. So let's say if there's certain units which has a lot of heals, which has a lot of like casting, right, the debuff which reduces vitality and haste is also going to be really useful. So even at the lower tier, I'll say this unit is gonna be decently useful to sort of act as a debuffer, sort of act as a buffer for your team to clear through the AFK challenge itself. So based on our few rounds of testing, I'll say this unit is not exactly the best in terms of Dream Realm, because there's a lot of bosses where this unit cannot bypass in terms of mechanics, namely Yeti, because he's skill reliant, so not very good for Yeti, not very good for Necro Dragon because it's not very mobile, and then not very good for Croaky, because yeah, the illusion can tank one insta kill but cannot tank the second one, so Torrent will still be the better choice, right? There's still other bosses which we can still test, but based on the damage output as well as what the unit wants to do, I don't think this unit is that good for Dream Realm. So if you're a free-to-play player, a $0 player that cares more for the Dream Realm side of things, I think he's not very good. His role in the arena is also very powerful at the lower tier, which I'm going to showcase after this battle. So far so good. As you guys can see, I'm still pushing at the deficit and he's still standing up really well. This is because of the innate tankiness of the unit. Now moving on to the arena, let me just find an opponent which I have a chance to win. I think we should be able to take this guy on. Okay, let's take this guy on. So this guy has a really powerful Vala right there, which I think I'm gonna use Torrent to tank up. You guys might find it very, very weird, but if I put Torrent behind this Fiestro right here, this Torrent becomes super duper tanky. And then I'm gonna put confining spell so that yeah, so that we get increased energy. Okay, we're gonna put Coco behind this Fiestro to get increased energy, and we're gonna put this Torrent behind this Fiestro to get damage reduction so that he can be a bait for the very powerful Vala, and then we use confining spell from there. So let's see how it performs right there. Okay, so our Torrent is tanking really well even though he's not linked up. And at the same time, if you take a look at Fiestro, even though he's only at the lowest tier, he's actually tanking surprisingly well. I think this is, I'll say, largely attributed to the 30% damage reduction, because 30% damage reduction is massive, right? Damage reduction scales really well the more damage your opponent is doing. So even at a low stats, that 30% damage reduction reduces so much damage that this just allows the unit to tank up a lot. Okay, so let's just test another round to see whether or not this unit is truly tanky. So that's one way we can use the unit. I think I can probably fight this guy. Okay, so in terms of this guy, I'll say let's put Torrent here so we can use Torrent as an additional body to draw attention away. And then the Vala will target Torrent, Smokey will heal everyone, and hopefully our Fiestro survive as long as possible. Okay, hopefully. So let's use Starshot spell so that we get our skills up faster and then have more debuff. So they're gonna walk in front, right, soaking up 2 lanes of damage. Very, very nice there. So right there, Torrent got sniped off by our dear Vala, unfortunately, but I think overall it's still pretty well. Like, I think the team did its job in terms of like, I mean, Fiestro did its job in terms of buying time for the team to do the stuff. So right here, my Coco got the ultimate off, my Odie got the ultimate off, my team starts to steamroll from there. So very, very good stuff, as you guys can see. So hopefully we don't get wiped by Vala. Okay, we're getting wet by Vala right there. Pretty unfortunate because we're running a Mauler core, but I think Fiasco definitely did a job at the super low tier. Right, so you guys can see the stats. So right here, obviously the lack of tiers probably hurt the tankability, but I do think that this unit did its job in terms of sort of buying enough time for the team. It's just that we probably could have dealt with the Vala a lot better. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the $0 showcase. Let's move on to the $1,000 Fiasco account. Let's go. Okay, so right here we have the $1,000 Fiasco account, and to be honest, I don't know whether or not this is exactly $1,000 to get this unit to Supreme Plus or EX15. It could cost more, it could cost less based on your personal experience, but based on the cost of buying the Stargazer Orb as well as the Temporal Essences, it should be roughly that amount. So in this account, I'm going to showcase the different challenges in terms of deficit pushing, in terms of arena, and then talk about why this unit is actually a lot better in the later tiers, right? You need him to be at a really high tier to fully maximize his capability, and why this unit might not be very good at the lower tier itself. So I explain based on the showcase and then talk about the skill set so you guys know whether or not you want to invest in him if you're a free-to-play player, light spender, or even a heavy spender itself. Now, one way to showcase why this unit is really good is how efficient is this unit in terms of deficit pushing. So right here we are at the multi-team stage 153 of the Song of Strife season, and let us take a look at the records itself. So we have Fiasco, we have Fiasco, we have Fiasco, and more Fiasco over here. So this unit has sort of become the new king for tanking in terms of deficit pushing, because he's able to tank stuff which two of the most powerful tanks in the game, Torrent and Danny, cannot. So I'm going to showcase his ability over here by just copying one of my players team setup. So this is a very standard Carol, Iron, and Arden team backed by Reina, as well as the new Hypogean tank Fiasco. So you guys can see his power over here. So right here, right, this unit is just able to walk up to the front line, take so much damage while surviving at the same time. And other than being able to just soak up damage on the front line, the buffs that this unit provides for both Iron as well as Arden allows your team to survive a little bit longer while doing more damage. So in a comparison, right, later on I'm going to do a comparison by resetting the stage to showcase to you guys why this unit is so tanky, to showcase the relative tankiness of Fiasco compared to Danny or even Torrent. So right here we managed to clear the stage really effectively. So let me just do a quick reset, and then I'm going to put in Torrent to showcase the difference. Okay, so I'm going to reset the stage, and then we're gonna go into this one with the same team setup. Okay, and then we're gonna put in Torrent in the place of Fiasco. Okay, so let's give Torrent the levels and let's start the battle. Okay, so right here we simply swap out Fiasco for another tank unit, and as you guys can see, when comparing Torrent to Fiasco, Torrent is taking a lot more damage and not surviving as well. Another advantage that Fiasco has over Torrent is the ability to produce two bodies, which is able to allow him to tank from two different directions. So right here, Torrent simply cannot tank this, and if you switch out the tank for Fiasco, the result is really easy. So I'm just going to go back and then switch the position and then finish the battle from here. So let's just level up Fiasco right here and then do the testing. Okay, so the unit is no longer there, so there's a bug. Let's start the battle. We're going to run at 2 times. So just now, Torrent was not able to tank, but Fiasco right here is able to tank in 2 directions. So having 2 bodies on the field not only allows this unit to tank better, but allows this unit to take certain single target skill a lot better as well. For example, Khafra, for example, Bryon, these units is only able to target 1 unit, but when you have 2 different bodies, you can use the illusion to tank up the initial hit, and then you use the main body to tank up. That's how powerful this unit is in terms of tanking, in terms of deficit pushing for the endgame AFK stages itself. So you guys might be wondering, hey, this unit is really powerful in terms of the AFK challenges. What else? So in terms of arena, in terms of the PvP game mode, I think one of the biggest strengths for Fiasco, at least at this tier, Supreme Plus EX15, is his flexibility. So other than being an amazing standalone unit, this unit is insanely flexible in terms of team builds. So when you think of team builds for this unit, I think the Iron Magical Core team probably comes to your mind first, because this unit is a magical attacker. This unit is able to buff up Iron to give it more tankability, is able to buff up your carry to give it more damage. But there are other ways to actually use Fiestro buff for the team. Number one, using units which have very powerful and impactful ultimate on the main unit buff allows that unit to supercharge the ultimate a lot faster. So right here, I actually use the Mauler setup. So I'm going to showcase the formation for that I use. So I'm putting Coco behind one of the Fiestro unit, which is the main unit, and then I'm putting Shakir behind the illusion unit. So Shakir is transformed into a semi-tank in the process of being buffed, while Coco has a supercharged ultimate based on the position behind the main Fiestro right there. So I'm going to showcase the battle so you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is something which I think the $0 Fiestro can do as well, because at $0 at the lowest tier, you can still use Fiestro as a buffer for your team. So right here at the higher tier, you can use him as both a tanker as well as a buffer, which sort of put two roles into one unit, making it a lot more flexible in terms of team building. But this is something which you can definitely abuse even if your Fiestro is at a low tier, because all unit is just putting units behind these two tanks, right? These two illusion as well as the main unit, and then they'll benefit from the buff. So that's one thing which I think Fiestro is really good at, and that is team building, right? On top of the buffs as well, the Hypogean tag is obviously helping this unit, because Hypogean means that you can group like two different units from different factions and then group them together to cover for each other's weaknesses and make your arena experience or even your Supreme Arena experience a lot better. So this is something which I think carries from the $0 Fiestro to the $1,000 Fiestro. Obviously, if you have the $1,000 Fiestro with the high tier as well as the massive EX weapon, then you have one unit that can do two things, right? If you have the $0 one, you might need a proper tank to stand on the front line, but nonetheless, this unit can do this buffing role, which makes it really flexible in terms of team building. So to conclude, I would like to take this opportunity to explain why Fiestro is more of a late game type of character as well as more pay to win by nature. So before I continue, right, I'm just gonna say this unit is very stats reliant, because the illusion inherits 100% of his stats. So if you have Fiestro at a super high stats, this illusion can tank better, can do damage better, can heal better, and can stay longer on the battlefield. At the same time, not only is it a lot tankier, the amount of heals is also based off his attack stats. So having higher stats, having higher attack allows this unit to heal better. And when you combine the fact with the 30% damage reduction, this unit can reduce a lot of damage the later you go, because when you are getting hit by 10,000 damage, right, you are reducing 3,000 damage. If you are taking hit from 100 damage, you are only reducing 30 damage. Therefore, this unit is insanely good for deficit pushing, because enemies at a higher level hits a lot harder. So this unit tanks a lot better the tougher the stage goes. So this is how damage reduction works and why this unit scales off a lot of stats. And other than just having a lot of stats as Supreme Plus, this unit is further boosted in terms of defense, because this skill over here increases both physical and magical defense by 30%, right? Up to 50% of the base stats. So when you have this unit at the lowest tier, obviously the gain that you get for this ability is not as high, and this is the Legendary Plus skill, right? Heal Focus is at Legendary Plus. So obviously from the looks of it, right, just off Legendary Plus, you'll be getting a lot of defensiveness on this unit. I think this unit should be strong enough to stand still on the front line at just Legendary Plus, because this is an insane amount of stat buff on him. But if you do get this unit to Supreme Plus, you get even more tankiness, because you get a 570% attack shield, right? This is massive. So you combine damage reduction to increase in defense to the shield itself, this unit just tanks so well. Then when you throw in all the heals from Vicious Sting, when you throw in the heals from Futile Echo over here, this unit is just a beast to stand on the front line. So therefore, when you compare a $0 Fiestro to a $1,000 Fiestro, there's a clear difference, right? Because stats really matters for this unit. And for tanks itself, most of the time the tank will need to stand on the front line. So for Fiasco, if you're using him as a tank, you probably need to buff him up a lot in terms of the tiers to greatly benefit from the stats boost itself. But let's say if you're using him more for the support utility compartment, for example, you're using him for the buffing side, it doesn't really affect that much because the buff that it provides for the team in terms of the damage reduction, in terms of the energy recovery speed, is not affected by the stats. So it is only affected by the levels of this unit. So that is something which I think a $0 Fiasco can achieve. So you can definitely use this unit more as a utility unit, even at the lower tiers itself. Another thing that this unit has in the kit is Vicious Sting. So this one is also not affected by stats. So the things that are affected by stats is the survivability of this unit. So if you want to use him as a tank, as a frontliner to soak damage, you definitely need to increase his tier. But if you're using him more as a utility unit, as a buffer as well as debuffer, I think you can keep him at a lower tier. But in most cases, this unit would prefer to be at a higher tier because this unit is such a meta and powerful tank right there. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoy this $0 versus $1,000 unit comparison. Let me know down in the comment section below if you guys want to see more of this series as we produce more for the other units in the game or even future units to come. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more from the channel, and I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys!